Let everyone rejoice this awesome season. Soundtrackin has returned after a brief hiatus, and I'm finally back, so let's cut the chit-chat and jump right into Skyfall. The first track I listened to from the Skyfall film was the Adele title track. It was released as a single just before the film came out, and it reminded me so much of some of the earlier films, such as For Your Eyes Only or From Russia with Love, both excellent title tracks. And so I got really excited for the soundtrack, and I was not disappointed. Now, rather than choosing David Arnold this time around, they chose Thomas Newman. Now, Thomas Newman is not a bad composer, and he's done such films as WALL-E and Finding Nemo, which got me a little bit skeptical as whether or not he could pull off a James Bond film. Then I dug a little bit deeper and found he had done some of my other favorite films, such as The Lost Boys, The Shawshank Redemption, American Beauty. Thomas Newman has never won an Oscar for his films. However, he's been nominated several times. How many times has he been nominated? We'll have the answer for you later in the show, Miss Moneypenny. Skyfall soundtrack is a great throwback to some of the earlier James Bond classics. This soundtrack contains exotic, suave, classy themes, and some other elements that I look for in a good James Bond soundtrack. However, it does fall short of what I would call my ideal James Bond soundtrack. It's a bit like Eric Bana walks into a nice restaurant sporting his best tux and his Walmart dress shoes. The waiter escorts him to a table where Angelina Jolie is waiting for him, dressed in an elegant and spectacular dress inspired by something in the Orient. He promptly orders his martini, shaken, not stirred. The waiter soon returns with his meal and he begins to eat. And at first it's one bite, it's two bites, and each bite leads to the next bite and he wants more. And before long, he's eaten a quarter of his meal. Just about that time, the waiter returns, removes his meal, escorts Angelina out of the building, hands him the bill, and says, "Please leave." So what I can say about the Skyfall soundtrack is it is classy. It does have some exotic themes. It does have some suave and all of these perfect elements. But it leaves you hungry. Now on to my playlist, where I recommend my top 3 tracks from the soundtrack. And coming in at number 3 is track number 1, Grand Bazaar. I picked this track because it gets the soundtrack off to the right start. It has this great action element to it, and it builds and teases you relentlessly with the James Bond theme. Pick number 2 on the list this week is track number 26, She's Mine. It contains so many different elements from the James Bond pieces. Which leads me to my final recommended pick and my number 1 pick on the playlist this week, and that is track 22, Breadcrumbs. This is one of those tracks that I wish I could just pop into my iPod and play it as full as I can whenever I walk into a room, a building, a store, so that when people see me, they say, "Hey, that guy's cool." For the most part, I absolutely enjoy the Skyfall soundtrack and feel that it's one of the better soundtracks that have been released in a while. However, I do say that this soundtrack is one that's taken best shaken, not stirred. I just prefer the random arrangement as opposed to the straight-through arrangement that they created for it. Now, there were a few things that were missing from the soundtrack, and that included the Adele title track and the end credit sequence, which includes the iconic James Bond theme that I was looking for in the entire soundtrack. So, my overall rating for the Skyfall soundtrack is going to be a 6.42 decibel rating. Not a bad soundtrack, but it still could have been better. So earlier in the show, I asked you, how many times has Thomas Newman been nominated for an Oscar? And the answer, Miss Moneypenny, is 10. Now, I'm off to queue. So, thank you for watching. Spread the word, get this video out there, and to everybody that enjoys soundtracks. Until the next time, enjoy some great soundtracks.